What's up, Mission? Happy Easter. How we doing? Good. Awesome. My name is Mike Hickerson. I'm honored to be the lead pastor of Mission Church, man. Honored that Mission's a part of your Easter weekend options. And if you're in the lobby and that wasn't your plan, thanks for having a good attitude. And just if you don't have a good attitude, just tell yourself you have a good attitude right now. That's awesome. We're grateful for you. We exist as a church to help people find and follow Jesus. That's great. We believe there's hope for everyone. That's awesome. But we got to get down to business on the most important things about Easter first. First and foremost, there's only two kinds of people in this world, one of which God doesn't like and one of which God likes. So and this is going to be really honest up front. If you're a Peeps person, what in the heck is wrong with you? So, all right, if you're a Peeps person, let me hear you right now. So, we need your seat. You got to go. This is the sound that Peeps make in my soul. So, and then there's Cadbury eggs people that God loves. So. Thank you. All right, for real, if you're a Peeps person, where you at? All right, coming at you, bro. There you go. If you're Cadbury eggs, right here, coming at you. All right, there we go. I don't trust my arm. All right, I made it over the pool. No, for real. I love Easter. I'm a sucker for it. The Easter Bunny terrifies me. I'm just be straight. I'll be honest with you. But I love the family. I love the traditions. I love the meal. I love getting a family picture, kind of doing this together. And I love Easter egg hunts now because when I was a kid, there wasn't money in them. And so now I will take your 4-year-old out for that $10 bill that's in there. I'm kidding. No, but really what I love about Easter, man, there's millions of people all over the globe that are gathering in all kinds of different places. And in rooms like this, or stone cathedrals, or simple wooden structures, or outdoor stadiums, or movie theaters, or old malls, or mud huts, or gathering in countries where gathering like this on Easter Sunday will put your life and your family's life at risk. All because what we're celebrating at Easter is that Jesus is alive, and then the tomb is empty. And so I don't know where you're walking in. Yeah, you can clap for that. I don't know where you're walking in, and I don't know if you're just did the, made a deal with your mom or your significant other. Okay, we'll do this and we'll go to brunch, and then you won't bug me for the rest of the year about church. That's all right. This is a safe place. But let's just call a truce for a little bit, because if God is who He says He is and wants to do everything that He promised to do, that has big ramifications for our life. And that if He sent Jesus into the mess to rescue and save, that has big ramifications. And now I don't know, we're probably not on the same page about God, Jesus, Bible, church, Christians, and that's okay. In fact, I think it's helpful right about now in our service if we just turn to the person next to us that hopefully we know, and just say hey, I want you to know something from the bottom of my heart. I just want you to know that you are not perfect. So just turn to the person next to you, remind them. They're going to look back at you and be like, you're not perfect either, sucker, Fights will break out. Okay, whoa. You're not supposed to enjoy that much, all right? Reminding each other of each other's imperfections. Don't do that later when you're fighting. We don't power up and create shame out of that. What we want to do is remind ourselves that without Jesus, we are all sunk. There are no perfect people, but there's a perfect God who rescues and saves. And what we celebrate at Easter is the holiday that celebrates the historical event of Jesus' resurrection from the dead. And God is a big boy God that can take all your cynicism, all your skepticism, all your doubts, and hold up to it. The Bible, Jesus can take all your cynicism, all your skepticism, all your doubts, and it holds up to Him. God is a big boy God that is not afraid of that. I actually think if we have doubts or skeptics or cynics in the room, which all of us have had that journey at one point or time, if we are honest with that, it actually is a catalyst to our faith and not something that's going to be an obstacle to our faith. So lean in and be honest with them. I think it'll lead you to what God has and what the Bible says and what Jesus has for us. In fact, there's this encounter. The biographies of Jesus are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And there's some awesome interactions with the resurrection story, the Easter story in each of those. But I just always keep finding my way back to John 20 because I love it so much. And so this is the interaction of Easter and what we're celebrating today. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So all of the guys that were following Jesus, all the men and women that are following Jesus, they're all scattered because Jesus has been killed on Good Friday. They put him in a tomb. All the dudes are freaking out and wigging out and hiding out. And so women got to go get the job done on Easter morning. That's what's going on. Sorry. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved. So John wrote this, and so this is just fun for us to know. John, and it really is an act of humility. So, but I like to have a little fun with it. He never refers to himself as John in the book of John, the autobiography of Jesus that he wrote. He always is like the other disciple or the disciple that Jesus loved. So when I get to heaven and be like, John, dude, you could have just said John. It would have saved so much space in your writing. But no, you're the disciple Jesus loved, right? That's the way I read it. That's why at some point I'm going to get struck by lightning. Sorry, John. We'll make up. We'll be all right. We'll be all right. So the other disciple that Jesus loved, and they said, this is what Mary Magdalene said, they've taken the Lord out of the tomb and we don't know where they put him. So Peter, this is verse 3, and the other disciple, John, started for the tomb. Verse 4, both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. I mean, I'm going to be humble about not put my name on it, but there's no reason that this sentence ever needs to be in the Bible. Both were running, but the other disciple outran. He just wanted the world to know from the beginning, I'm faster than Peter. I'm not going to put my name on it, but I'm competitive. I just want you to know I resonate to this because I'm so stinking competitive. And so this is what happened a couple weeks ago at our house. I am like just talking trash to Jody one night. I'm like, I'm so much faster than you. Because and she's like, whatever, you're just being arrogant. You're an idiot, which is very true. And I'm like, no, I bet I could beat you in a race like easy. Like I could run backwards and beat you in a race. I could probably run like 3 legs of a race by the time you ran 2. And she's like, Mike, stop it. And our oldest daughter's hanging out right there. She's like, Dad, you're so funny. And then, because I am so funny. So Jody goes, you know what? Let's do it. And I was not expecting that answer. So I went out with bare feet, and I was like, I probably get shoes on for this. And so I started at our stop sign. This is real, by the way. This happened. Started at our stop sign, and she started out in our driveway, and our oldest daughter was not allowed to film anything or record anything. I'm sure there's ring footage somewhere in our cul-de-sac. But Hayden was out there, and when she's like, 1, 2, 3, go. And I take off. I'm so fast. I'm like, running. I've got to go to the driveway, to the stop sign, and back before she makes it one way. I'm like, this is going to be easy. I'm going to jog backwards. I'm going to talk trash the whole way. It's going to be awesome. So I pass her. I am moving. I am like it's like Mach 5 at least. So I'm like going, and I hit the car, and I'm turning around in our driveway, and I grossly underestimated the slope of our driveway and how fast I was going. I hit our car, and I'm running back down the driveway, and I start the downhill run. It was like boom, 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 and I just bite it in the middle of our cul-de-sac. It was awesome. And then Jody she runs by and just laughs. No mercy, no sympathy, and it was over. So throughout all of history, Jody is faster than me on that, and so that has nothing to do with Easter. I just understand the competition of trying to race to the tomb, all right? So verse 6, so John gets there and it doesn't go in. Then Simon Peter came along beside him and went behind him because he wasn't there yet, and went straight into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. The cloth was still lying in its place, separate from the linen. Finally, the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went inside. He saw and believed. So here's the deal. I want all of us to take a look. No matter when you get to the empty tomb of Jesus in your life, no matter what part of your story, if you're first in line to the empty tomb or you're last in line in your friends to get to the empty tomb, I want us today to take a look at the empty tomb of Jesus, because it has massive ramifications for our life. In fact, I love this quote from Jared Wilson. It says, if the resurrection isn't true, we should all just stay home, because religion makes a lame hobby. There's so much better hobbies out there than religion if the resurrection of Jesus is not true. But Easter means that there's hope, like hope for us. And my friends that aren't following Jesus, you have to use hope as a verb, meaning like, let me show you, and this is the English lesson, so if you don't want to listen to it, I'll catch you back up in a second. That wishful thinking kind of hope, like I hope she says yes, I hope she responds to my DMs, I hope I passed the test that I didn't study for. Like it's a verb, like it's this wishful thinking type of thing. But those of us that are following Jesus, hope becomes a noun. It's a thing that we're tethered to. This biblical hope is this confident expectation that God is both willing and able to accomplish, or to fulfill the promises that he has made to those that trust in him. It's this living hope, not just this wishful thinking. It's this noun that we're tethered to because it's the confident expectation that God is both willing and able. And he wants to and he can. And that hope that we have means, like because of the empty tomb, means that we have a living hope. And that means that there's hope for today. No matter how you walked in, no matter what you're navigating, no matter what you're going through. I mean, you clean up real great on the outside, but you may have like a dark night of the soul going on the inside, and that's okay. It's okay not to be okay on this, because there's hope for today wherever you are and in the mess that you are, and God knows what he gets when he gets you. And there's also there's hope for tomorrow. Like, as followers of Jesus, this is as close to hell as we're ever going to get on this side of eternity right now. Even if it's going bad right now. Man, there is hope for tomorrow. And then there's hope for change. Like, we don't have to stay stuck in the same hurts or habits or hang-ups or patterns or cycles that have gotten us where we are. That God has given us everything we need to live the life that he's called us to. In fact, I love this quote from D.A. Hickerson. It says, "You aren't suffering from anything that a good resurrection can't fix." I don't know what you got going on in your situation, in your family, in your story, in your singleness. I don't know what you got going on. But you aren't suffering from anything that a good resurrection can't fix. And Jody said this the other day, and I wrote it down because I thought it was so powerful. She said, "The enemy cannot do anything about the fact that we are saved and that Jesus conquered death. The enemy of our soul can't do anything about that. It's done. It is finished. Like, Jesus has paid the price for us to be restored. He can't do anything about the fact that we have the chance to be restored back to God. But what he can do is he can keep us stuck in our shame, to feel like we don't deserve the rescue that is offered to us. But there's hope, confident expectation that God is both willing and able to do everything that he promised to do for those who love him. And there's hope for change. And that means that there's hope for every single one of us. The resurrection means that this is not the end. You have regrets about your past? The resurrection is not the end. You recently suffered pain or loss or diagnosis? The resurrection means it's not the end. If you're paralyzed by your doubts, the resurrection means that it is not the end. Man, Easter changes everything. Easter means that, like, my past can be forgiven. And some of us just get so defined by our past in our life, especially when we live where we live in the world's biggest small towns of all time, where everyone seems to know your junk and your story. Like, right, in Ventura and Oxnard and Hueneme and Santa Paula and like in it's like everybody in film where everybody just knows like their stories sometimes. And sometimes we don't let each other get out of the fact that our past can be forgiven and rescued and redeemed and restored. Then we're not defined by that anymore. Like, Easter changes that for us. Like, Easter changes everything that our past could be forgiven. The irreversible of our story can be reversed. Like, all the failures in the room, all the imperfect people in the room, whether you failed at marriage or relationships or financially, you failed to tell the truth, or you failed your parents, or you failed as a parent, or you feel like you're just failing at life, but you're hustling and striving and trying, but you just feel like you keep coming up short because that's all you're ever going to be, and you have those voices from your past, and you have that videotape from your past, and you have all that stuff from your past that keeps holding you back, but the reality of the empty tomb means that our past can be forgiven. Colossians 2 says he canceled the record of the charges against us and took it away by nailing it to the cross. Like, when God looks at you, he's like, that's my boy or that's my daughter, and they are not guilty. And you're like, I'm not even done time for good behavior yet. You know, I feel like I need like I may need the thing around my ankle for a while because I haven't got that all figured out. I'm still trying to figure out how to live free. Like, God goes, no. I'm not rubbing your nose in your past. I'm lifting your head out of it, and you are not guilty anymore. Because of the cross of Jesus and the empty tomb of Jesus, my past can be forgiven. Your failure is not final. It doesn't get the last word in your story. Easter changes everything. It means that my present can be fully alive. Ephesians 2, 4, and 5 says, but because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in our transgressions. It is by grace that you've been saved. You can't earn it. You don't deserve it. We get unmerited favor from God, and God enters the but into the sentence of our story, right? Like, he's like the idea, like we've written the first part of our sentence of the story, and God right there, his like the big but, the significant but of God will change our whole story. It'll change our whole history. It'll change our whole legacy. It'll change a family line because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive. And God doesn't make like cleaned up people better, and he doesn't make like bad people good. He makes dead people in their rebellion and sin and dysfunction alive. And we get new starts and fresh hope. So my present can be alive, but also Easter changes everything, means that my future can be free. Like 1 Peter 1, 3, and 4, he was the second one to the tomb. He wrote this. He said, "Praise be to God, Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus from the dead and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you." John says it this way. He's quoting Jesus. Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die." Do you believe this? Jesus is not leaving it up for debate. He's like, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. I am the light of the world. Like, I am the vine, remain in me. I am. Do you believe this? As we're looking into that empty tomb today, that's the big money question for us. 1 Corinthians 15, 1 and 7 says it this way. This is Paul writing. He says, "Now, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you of the gospel." That's like the good news, the message of Jesus that I preached to you, which you received and on which you have taken your stand. By the gospel you are saved if you hold firmly to the word I preached to you. Otherwise you have believed in vain. Verse 3, here's the money part. "For what I received to you I passed on as first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day according to the scriptures, and he appeared to Peter and then the 12, and after that he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers and sisters at the same time, most of whom are still living, though some have fallen asleep," translated dead, okay? "Then he appeared to James and then to all the apostles." Like, the historical veracity of the resurrection of Jesus stands up to the criticism that you may have for it. Do the work, move towards it, be honest with it. And that means if you're a follower of Jesus, that your hope is not in vain. That your struggle is not in vain, that your prayers are not in vain, that your generosity is not in vain, that your service is not in vain, that your sacrifice is not in vain, that your discipline is not in vain, that your worship is not in vain, that the tears you shed are not in vain. Because Easter changes everything. It means my past can be forgiven, my present can be alive, and my future can be free. There's this quote from J.P. Moreland that I love. It says this. It says, "When Jesus was crucified, his followers were discouraged and depressed. So they dispersed." Because they killed Jesus, now they're going to look for them. So they're out, man. They're hiding. They don't know what's next. The Jesus movement was all but stopped in its tracks. Then after a short period of time, we see them abandoning their occupations, regathering, and committing themselves to spreading a very specific message. That Jesus Christ was the Messiah of God who died on a cross, returned to life, and was seen alive by them. And they were willing to spend the rest of their lives proclaiming this without any payoff from a human point of view. They faced a life of hardship. They often went without food, slept exposed to the elements, were ridiculed, beaten, imprisoned, and finally, most of them were executed in torturous ways. For what? For good intentions? No, because they were convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that they had seen Jesus Christ alive from the dead. And you need to know the men and women that were following Jesus in the first century weren't smart enough to pull off a heist that stands the test of thousands of years of criticism to see that if it's true. The first century, they would describe themselves as unskilled, ordinary men. Like they're not pulling off the heist of the century. And you watch the radical life change in the followers of Jesus. And it's clear that that Jesus was a person in Jesus of Nazareth was a person in human history, that he did exist, that something happened that changed the world. Even non-biblical scholars would say something happened miraculous that changed the world 2,000 years ago. And the tomb is empty. And so for thousands of years, there's been, like on Easter Sunday, there's this thing called the greetings that is done at different church and gatherings and wherever it is. And so maybe this is new to you, maybe it's not. But somebody, like I didn't grow up in church, so I didn't know this. And so it was all kind of weird to me. But somebody on Easter Sunday would get up and say, "He is risen." And everybody would say, okay, some of you know it. That's great. And some of you are like, how did they know to say that? It's like, it's just a normal call and response thing historically. Let's go. So somebody will say, we're practicing now, "He is risen." And you would say, okay, we're going to do that again, but we're going to do it with a little more passion. But I want to set us up a little bit first of what that means. And so when we say this, this is what this means. That there was a man named Jesus, that he taught like nobody ever taught, that he lived like nobody ever lived, that he loved like nobody ever loved. That he especially had a heart for the people that were on the margins, for the sick, for the sinners, for the forgotten poor, for the despised rich, for the disliked soldiers, for the excluded. On Friday, his great courage got him arrested. His great love leads him to a cross, and his great heart stops beating. On Friday, that which looks like a horribly tragic ending to such a wonderful life turns out to be the greatest sacrifice of love in the history of the world. Because on Sunday, a stone gets rolled away. On Sunday, death loses its sting, grave loses its victory. On Sunday, hell is defeated, death was dethroned, darkness was derailed, and the devil is demotivated. On Sunday, the tomb was empty and hope gets fulfilled. On Sunday, our faith is vindicated, the prophets were validated, the soldiers were aggravated, and the disciples were animated. On Sunday, sin loses and shame dies and hope soars and love wins. On Sunday, we get something beyond ourselves to live for and something beyond our life to die for and something beyond our death to hope in after we die. There is therefore this central proclamation of the greatest victory over the darkest enemy by the noblest hero for the loftiest cause in all of human history. If there's anything worth celebrating on Easter Sunday, is that he is risen. And you would say, he is risen indeed. And my friend Joey has experienced that. Check it out.
Hi, my name is Joey, and this is my story. So growing up, church wasn't a big part of our weekly tasks until about junior high, high school started coming in. And then we have a death in our family. My uncle passed away. He was my best friend. He did a lot with me. He was quite the role model for me. I just remember being kind of lost and not really knowing where to go from there. But I was upset, I was angry, and I picked my ways a lot. I was very stubborn. I, never wanted to step foot in another church. No matter how much I feel like God was running toward me, I just kept running the opposite way. And then my girlfriend Isabel came into the picture. And so I was kind of running with it. But my old habits, my addictions were getting the best of me. Just quick to anger, very little patience in different things, and not only family life, but in the relationship now at this time. And we didn't really know where to go. She didn't know where to turn, and I was kind of just like, hey, I've done this for so long. That's what I do. That's what I know. It's what I do best. And so I continued. I stayed in my habits until one day I was in the desert with a buddy at the time and doing my thing. She called me and she told me, she's like, hey, I'm praying for you. She's like, I went to church, and I said, really? Why? I was so taken back because we had never talked about it. We didn't know that she was even interested, and she knew where I felt, where I stood, and where I was at in church. And so I thought, I better check this out. Why all of a sudden did she want to go to church? This is really odd. And so I came in with my guard up. No one could be on stage and with the microphone and tell me what's what. I don't need someone telling me what to believe or how to believe it, or I don't need, these fake hands or smiles telling me what's what. I had my guard up, this complete wall. I questioned everything. And Isabel at the time was just on fire. She was signing up for this and volunteering for this and wanted to sit in front of the church. And I'm like, hey, let's take it easy. It's my first time kind of checking out church. And I'm digging it. I just don't know where it's going. And Isabel signed up for baptisms. I told her I'd be her support, her rock, kind of be her strength next to her, and just let her know that I support her decision and that I think what she's doing is cool. Baptism days came, and we had a guest speaker come and teach that day. He talked about the man who was crippled for 30 some odd years. And Jesus comes in and asks the man, do you want to get well? The man says, yeah, look at me. Of course I want to get well, And at that time, I'm like, Lord, of course I want to get well. I'm tired. I know that it's not the right way, and I want to get well. My hands start to shake a little more. My hands, they get sweaty. I'm getting really nervous, getting lumps in my throat, and I'm feeling this crazy pull. And then Jesus goes on to say, pick up your mat and walk. Now, he didn't say just walk. He said, pick up your mat and walk. He told him to pick up his mat because that was his story. That's what he's sat on for 30 some odd years, and that's all he's had around him. That's all he's known. So pick up your mat, pick up your story, and walk. When that guy got up and walked, man, I don't think I've ever felt something that special inside of me. I wanted to walk. I wanted to walk. So then the time came for Isabel to line up for baptisms at the back of the church, and I had this pull, do it. Like stop thinking and do. Something inside of me was just do it. And I go into this changing room and just nervous as all heck. I didn't know what to feel. I didn't know how to respond. And I got on my knees in the changing tent. And I said, God, I need you. If you're there, God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I said, everything I've done against you, to run from you. I'm sorry, God. And after that, I was like, I gotta do it. I have to. I lined up, and then here I am in front of the guy on stage that said I wasn't perfect, and he said, neither is he. And so he asked me, he's like, why are we here? I just said, I'm tired, sir. I'm hurting. I said, I know what I'm going through ain't right. And so we said a few more words, and then in comes a plunge. I got out of that water and wept like a baby. My perspective on church at the time of me coming into baptisms was a hotel for the righteous, was really a hospital for the broken. And that's what I was. I was broken. I realized the life that I had led had got me to where I was, and the life that I led made me feel the way I was feeling. What God done and what Jesus has done for me has been full transformation. I can never look at the cross the same. My name is Joey, and I truly believe that Jesus is the Christ, and he saved my life.
Man, I love that, and I love Joey. I love that story, and what I love is that story gets played out over and over and over and over again in churches all over the world, because God specializes in rescuing and saving and restoring broken people, because that's all he has to work with.